Greetings. So, we are here for Winning Woman Wednesday, and we are so excited to have our special guest with us. I'm just going to give everyone an opportunity to join. Apologies for the delayed start, some technical difficulties, but we're here. We're here. So, just going to give a few moments for individuals to be able to join. Leave us a comment if you are watching via our live stream on Facebook or YouTube channel. Let us know that you're here.
Just trying to screen it.
Hi. So there's someone say hi. Give me 1 second. All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining. Wonderful. So today we have the pleasure to speak with Miss Olivia Shepard, transformation coach and mental health advocate. And we are just so honored to have you with us as our guest. And we're going to just start off just telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, it's actually Olivia B Shepherd because there's another Olivia Shepard out there.
Okay.
So we have to, that's why the B is there, because if you pull up Olivia Shepard, it won't be me. Okay, I'm just gonna put that out there. So it's actually Olivia B Shepherd. I'm actually a transformation and business coach. I am also a mental health advocate for rethinkmentalhealth.org. I became that a mental health advocate after my diagnosis about a year ago. Me being a transformation coach started with the fact of my last mental health stay at the hospital. I decided that there were some things that needed to change in my life. So hence the transformation from what I used to do to who I am now. And business coach, because I have been in business more than 20 years. So I got so many people coming to me asking me, how did you start a business? What do you do? How do you do this? So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna turn this thing into making some money off of it. So I help a lot of women behind the scenes start businesses, the things in business that people don't really tell you, the mission statements, the tax stuff, all of that stuff that people don't, the stuff that they don't glamorize, the things like that. I'm not gonna say actually a business coach, but more like a mentor, just kind of helping you walk through the steps of completing your business, guiding you through those things. Because most of the women that come to me already know what they're doing. They just don't have the self-esteem and the confidence to actually pursue it. So that's pretty much who I am, what I do. I am totally happy to be here because any chance I get to help and spread the word about what I'm doing, who I am, that gives me an opportunity to get that out there, especially when I'm talking about mental health. That's just like my thing. It's my jam. I love all things mental health.
That's wonderful, especially just taking your own experience and being able to, help other women and help other individuals, especially in the mental health space. The mental health space is still a space where people have a lot of embarrassment, where there's a lot of stigma around it. So just to be able to advocate for individuals and to assist them is wonderful and it's inspiring. And so you stated that you started this after your own mental health scare. Would you like to talk more detail about that, or?
I'm an open book. Basically, it was about 4 years ago. It was my last suicide attempt. I actually was, had a plan. When people always say that they, what is a suicide attempt survivor? That's what I call, that is a thing. That's a community. That's what we call ourselves. And it's when you actually have a plan to do something and it falls through. And in my case, it did fall through. I actually drove myself at the time to a mental hospital to check myself in. At that time, I knew I needed help. I wasn't able to get the help that I needed from friends, from families, because again, the stigma around mental health. Because in our community, it's more or less the snap out of it, pray about it. You can't suffer from mental health issues and believe in God. They don't like to put those two together. So what ends up happening is, like myself, I suffered alone. So there were things that I would do alone. I would drink alone. I would go through all of my things alone, and to the point where it got to right here that I couldn't do it anymore. So after that stay, I was stayed in for 7 days. And during that time, we were doing, the coping skill classes, journaling and learning about yourself, your diagnosis, the medications that you may or may not have to take. Because, of course, they put you on suicide watch. So I had a lot of time to think to myself, be by myself, learn about my diagnosis. How was I going to come to terms with this? Because remember, I am the strong Black woman. Okay, I'm the rebel in the family. I'm the strong one. I can do this. I can do that. I'm fussing and cussing. So for me to be able to be in this vulnerable position of having to stay in the hospital, to other people, it was like, why are you here? But when I got there, I was surrounded by people who were just like me. And they were lawyers, doctors, truck drivers, a professor, college kids, so I felt like I was at home. I was like, oh, I have found my tribe. These are my people, even though we all suffer from something different. So when I was back there, we had to journal what we would do different once we got out of the hospital. And in my journal, because I'm an avid journal, I've also published 2 journals. I love journaling; it's my thing. And in my journal, I wrote, I wanted to transform the way I saw myself. And I was determined to do that. And I was determined that I would never let another woman or man suffer alone with their illnesses. People have to come to terms that hey, if I'm depressed more than 30 days, something's wrong. And again, in our community, because when I was back there, I was with every race. And it was so frequent because some of the white girls would tell me, my father dropped me off, or my family helped me here. And I had to say, I was drunk and I drove myself. And it was kind of, like, they were looking at me kind of crazy in our groups, but it was the different things. I heard everybody being dropped off by family members. I heard everybody who, when it was family day, family members coming and asking how you were doing. My family will come and say, well, why are you here? So they don't understand what mental health is. So I vowed that I would talk about mental health every single chance I get. People don't like me talking about it. My family members still don't like me talking about it. They don't understand it. But this is why so many people commit suicide. This is why so many people are drinking. This is why so many people are using substance abuse, because they actually don't have anybody to confide in. They don't have anybody that's going to trust them to handle these situations. They don't have anybody they can trust. So I vow to never let that happen again to any woman or man. Never again.
No, that's a wonderful and a powerful story, because not a lot of people actually can identify that they need help. It is someone saying that you need help, right? And there's a constant push and tug about getting the necessary help. But in our community, it, like you said, in the Black community, it's just such a stigma that even when you are open to getting the help, it's unfortunate because you can easily be discouraged by the stigma that is carried through family members and so forth.
Yeah.
We talk about mental health, and I think that some people don't realize all of the layers of mental health. And so one of the things you said was, you said, if you're depressed over 30 days, right, then you should be asking yourself, how can I get help? What does depression look like? Because I do feel like some individuals don't necessarily even know that they're depressed, right? So can you share like what are some of the signs and some of the things that an individual should be looking out for, or some of the things that could be relatable to someone who is going through depression, or even any other mental health issues?
Well, with me, hence my new brand and everything that I'm going through right now. In my Heal, Grow, Transformation, and this is going to be my coaching program. Actually, my first step with this particular program is having people take responsibility and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Most people don't realize that they're depressed because we don't supposed to be. Okay, we're not supposed to be depressed. And I was told by a family member, why are you depressed? You have a house, you have a car, you have a husband, you have all these things. Okay. People don't realize depression looks like me. Mental health looks like me. And it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. You know, it's not one red flag or another. I mean, when you're getting to the point where you're isolating from your friends, when you're not wanting to go places, when you rather, I used to call myself the Eeyore. You remember Winnie the Pooh and remember the gray donkey? I think he's a donkey. He was always walking around doom and gloom all the time. Well, that's who I was. I literally did not see the sun. And I prayed for the house that I'm living in right now only to make it my jail cell because I kept the blinds closed. I kept it dark in my house. I didn't want to see sunlight. So when you start to feel like you can't talk to anybody, the things that are you're keeping inside, I am a rape survivor as well. So there were things that I started, having to, the PTSD was coming back because I was my father's caregiver who's also my rapist. So it was the PTSD that was coming back. But when you start to see yourself more than 30 days, if it's less than 30 to 60 to 90 days, at some point you have to say, I need help. Okay. Because what it looks like is shopping addiction. That was who I was. What it looks like is, what you call it, self-harming. What it looks like is drinking all the time. What it looks like is getting into behaviors that being promiscuous. And I know being promiscuous at an older age is like, oh, you don't do that, Oh, yes, you do. Okay. Sex addiction, all of those things those are red flags of the things because you're trying to cope with what you're dealing with with outside things. And those were all that was me. My addiction was shopping. My addiction was alcohol. So it was a common thing. It was getting to the point where I thought it was cute because I used to tote a flask in my pocketbook. It wasn't cute. It was just me being an alcoholic, and everywhere I went, I needed to drink. Okay. So when you're starting to, I have a lot of people that tell me, well, I get tattoos or I do this. All of that's a sign of I need help, but I'm too afraid to admit that I may be depressed. And you're not going to be diagnosed with bipolar, like myself. That's not going to be your diagnosis because what people don't realize is you can recover from depression and anxiety. You can. That as long as you are willing to get the help. So when I first start talking to women, when they come to me and when they want to be coached on being able to start their businesses or whatever, the first thing I do is work on their mindsets. And I'm like, look, you gotta admit you're depressed. There's something wrong with you. But if you're not gonna admit what you're going through, you're not gonna heal. You're not going to heal. It's the reasons why people say, why do you take medication? Or why do you go to therapy if you believe in God? I do believe in God. I wholeheartedly am in my Bible. But I don't think God made therapists just because, So when I met the therapist, I talk about everything. I'm an open book because I'm trying to heal all of those things that put me where I was at that in that bad state of mind. So if you are feeling like, hey, I can't cope with life, if you are thinking these thoughts, there is something wrong. And it's okay to admit that I am, I like to tell people when you said what depression looks like, I have a book on Amazon, and it says, it's called Black Girl Down. We don't look like we hurt. Nobody believed that I was suffering from mental health issues because I look like this. I had one of my sorrows tell me, you wear it well. And that's my that's my new thing, because I'm healing and I'm going through that. But there were days when you didn't see my face sunken in. There were days that I didn't want to brush my teeth. There were days that I didn't feel like taking a bath. I have lost so much hair underneath here. That's what depression doesn't look like a certain thing. Kate Spade, we all like Kate Spade bags. This lady is rich. Robin Williams, this great comedian. Okay, that's what depression and anxiety looks like. These people committed suicide, but people are telling me that I have nothing to worry about because I have a house, a car, whatever. But here it is. Here's a man who had everything. Here's a woman who had everything. So that's what depression looks like. It doesn't actually have a look. You just have to admit that you have something wrong. You have to admit, I may have a problem, and going to a doctor. And nowadays, your insurance cover that. It's behavioral health. You don't have to say mental health if you don't feel like that word applies to you. You can say behavioral health, and that does have something to do with your different behaviors. You've changed behaviors. You're isolating. You're drinking. You're using drugs. You are shopping. You're doing things that you would never do because you're coping with the pain that's deep down inside. So it doesn't have an actual look, but you do know there are red flags. There are red flags. You just have to be willing to admit that they might be something that you're suffering from.
No, that's wonderful. And there's a few things that you did say that I just want to touch upon. Like one of the things that you said is, how can you be suffering from depression when you have all of these things, right? And it's almost like there is this notion where you're ungrateful, right? Because how can you be depressed and you have things that others may not have? Like why wouldn't you just be grateful? And what do you say about that? About the aspect of gratitude in your depression, and how people just can misconstrue that you're ungrateful, in which you're not, right? But it's almost like they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and it was hard. It was hard to beat that back because you have these, and this was coming from outsiders. This was coming from people inside my home. This was coming from people telling me, snap out of it. What do you have to be depressed about? Right. And what I don't think they realize is depression is not something that, I think they misconstrue mental health with depression. Okay. I am bipolar. That's what I am diagnosed with. Okay. That is the chemical imbalance in my brain. And there are people who are depressed because things are not working out. That's a thing too. But if I am sitting around, it doesn't mean that I'm not grateful for having a house or a husband. But I can have a husband and be alone. You can have a house, and like I told you, it was my jail cell. My house became the thing that kept me here. Okay, so it doesn't matter about all of those things. I am totally grateful. And yes, but you have homeless people, you have homeless women, you have battered women who have nothing and are happy. So it doesn't really matter what you have or what you don't have. It's not that you're not grateful. Depression will happen at any time. It happens to anybody. And it doesn't matter. And yes, that was something I had to beat back, and which also pushes you down. Because you don't have anybody behind you saying, I don't know how I can fix this. I don't know what I can say to make this better for you, but please, just know that I care. No, it's the comments that we get, the what are you depressed about? You need to snap out of it. That happened a long time ago. That was in the past. You need to change your mind. You need to change these are the things that you get. So it pushes you further down, and down, and so it's hard for people to feel grateful about things sometimes because you're like, well, you know what? Screw it. You just screw it. I don't even care. And this is now going into those suicidal thoughts because you can't win for losing when you're in your. I like to call them my episodes. You can't win for losing because I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. Okay, I could be up here on cloud 9 for somebody to cut me right on down to size. So it's very hard. It's a very hard thing to deal with, especially if you're dealing with it alone.
Just it's so many. It's just layers to it, right? The gratitude, the getting help, the people telling you how you should feel, what you should feel, and what you shouldn't feel, right? So, the first step you said was to basically identify and own that you are depressed, right? Yeah. That is the first step. What does that look like?
It looks like admitting, in my case, that I was an alcoholic. It looked like admitting that I was walking around starting arguments. It looked like me taking responsibility for my actions. And that's what it looked like. And most people think, I like to say, if everything is going wrong around you, who's the common denominator? It's you. Okay, it's you. It's nobody else. It's you. And I had to realize that I needed to deal with the things that were going on inside of me. So I had needed to deal with the fact that I had been raped by my dad. I had to deal with the fact that nobody talked about it. I had to deal with the fact that I had things probably going on in my marriage. I had to deal with those things that I probably wasn't a good mom. I had to start dealing with, because remember, I'm this diva chick who you thought had it all together, but I didn't. So I had to deal with all of the mistakes that I had made in my entire life that were now coming together to form this big old ball of fire that's blowing up in my face. And so I had to learn that, okay, these are the things that I need to start dealing with. But I'm going to tell you, it's a tricky process, because when you start healing and when you start taking responsibility for your actions, you have low tolerance for other people who don't. So you walk around like, okay, see, I have no tolerance for people who don't take responsibility for it. If I'm wrong in a situation, it looks like now when I'm instead of arguing, like I would go tit for tat, argue with you. I'm the boss. You can't tell me anything. I'm a Scorpio. I'm this, I'm that. Now it looks like, okay, we can agree to disagree. It looks like me not blowing up anymore. It looks like me listening to your side, having empathy and sympathy for you, even though I don't agree with you anymore. Okay, so because I learned that I used to be in and out of jail like every other week. Like I literally would just go to jail because I would just blow up. Like I would just, like when I tell you, I was just a mess. But it was my doing. It was my doing. It wasn't anybody else's doing. It was me. And I had to realize that. And once I started realizing that, things got better for me. Now, things don't just actually go away. But I started realizing, okay, you can't handle situations like this anymore. How can you be a businesswoman, but you're going to jail every 10 minutes? How can you teach other people how to do stuff and you're going to jail? So I had to learn that it was my responsibility to take my actions and say, hey, this is not working for you. It's not ladylike. It's not what you should be doing. You can't. What are you showing your son? And so it had to look like taking responsibility for my actions. So if you are the one that's cussing and fussing, and if everything around you was going wrong and you can't get along with anybody, I don't care who it is, you are the common denominator, period. And it looks like that's what it looks. If that's what you're feeling, then you need to get the help that you need and take responsibility.
Well said. Well said. So you're Scorpio, November baby? Just off topic.
Yeah, November 19th. I just had a birthday.
Me too, November 20th. Hey, girl.
Well, have a belated birthday. Yes, I love all things about being a Scorpio. Yeah, I do. I'm a true Scorpio. I'm a true Scorpio.
Me too. Me too. And happy belated birthday to you as well. So just a few more questions, just so that we can continue the dialogue. One of the things about being in the mental health space, coaching, right, and advocating, and also having to walk your journey with mental health. How difficult is it for you to balance, right? Because a lot of people will say, as you're hearing people's stories, sometimes it can be a trigger to your own. So, how do you balance, and what would you give as advice to those who are looking to help others but don't want to jeopardize their journey?
Well, what you do have to separate is it's not you. It is not you. Everybody's journey is different. So when people do come to me, when I started healing, I had more sympathy and empathy. You know, as a Scorpio, we can have that don't care attitude, period. Okay, we can it don't affect us, it don't matter to us, we don't care. So I had to turn that around because I was walking around realizing that I had no sympathy for people. I didn't care what happened to people. But now when I am talking to people and when people come to me, when women come to me and they're talking about their mindsets, I have to realize that's not my journey. I'm helping them to walk their own path. Whereas with my journey, it's a lot different because most of the women that come to me have never been raped. So that's not their journey. So I'm more triggered. My trigger is death. So I have a really big thing about death because I've planned mine so many times. So that's my trigger. So when people come to me and say, "Well, I just don't want to live anymore," I explain to them the reasons why they should be living. Because I like to say, my minds didn't take. Okay. Apparently God was like, nah, sis, not right now. This ain't your time. You go back where you came from. Let's get this thing together. This ain't working. So when they come to me, what I do is just separate myself from what I'm coaching. I separate myself out of it. But I do bring in some of my experiences. So I try to tell them the reason why I smile all the time, or if you see me, doing these things, I try to teach them the coping skills that I've learned to manage every day. Because there are days there are days that I don't want to get up. There are days that sometimes it does show in my coaching because I have a Facebook group, I have a podcast, and there are days when I'll go 2 and 3 weeks and not post. There are days when I am absolutely at my wit's end and I can't do anything. That these people around and say, "Hey, you need to take yourself out of this." I don't trigger them coming to me. Stay professional. Because I'm not a licensed therapist. So we're not talking about, things like that. Basically it's just the confidence, self-esteem. How do we balance boundary? How do you cut off toxic people? Those are some of the things that I coach women through my program, that just to kind of help them get through. But I take myself out of it because I did get a couple of cases where I had 2 clients that I had myself so involved that it became a shouting match. Okay. And it wasn't good. So I had to learn as a coach, when you start, because I also had coaches myself and have to, read and get certified or whatever. I had to learn that I needed to take myself out of it. So when women come to me, I am Coach Lady O, and not the mental health advocate Lady O. Now I do have people that come to me on that's when I can but other than that, I take myself out of it.
Interesting, and that's good. I mean, even counselors say that, right? You have to have you have to be able to separate the personal versus the business and so forth. Okay, so clearly you took a bet on yourself, right? So in the community, it's called All Bets on Me. And you took a bet on yourself to be able to come through, to go and seek help, to be able to turn your journey into a business as a coach and in transformation and help other women in who also need help with mental health. What would you say made you bet on yourself, and what advice would you give to other individuals, women, to bet on themselves?
I know what I have. I know the vision that I have in my head. I know what God has. I like to say, I didn't go through everything I went through to stay silent.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go through everything. It has to be something behind what I went through for me to continue on. And I do take bets on myself. When I have people, and it's so funny because just a couple of days ago, somebody told me, hey, what you're doing, I don't see that it's working. See, it's not for you to see. Okay? See, what people don't realize is when they don't see the vision, when they don't understand your vision, they'll demean it. So what
But God didn't give them your vision. He gave it to you. So it's not for them to understand.
It's not for them to understand, but they will be hell bent on trying to, so that they can demean it. Okay, they want to know. They need to find, because they don't understand. You remember, I just told you I was the jailbird. I was the drinker. So people don't understand me, even in my own family, that I'm a education coach. They don't understand that I'm a podcast host. They don't see that part of me. So it's hard. And if you're a woman who wants to start a podcast, if you want to write a book, people don't call me author Lady Olivia when I'm walking around the house or in my family. They still call me by my nickname, which I don't want to be associated with anymore. So what you're going to have to realize, the bet is on you. You know what you have inside of you. You continue to do it, because you're going to get naysayers, and it's going to come from inside your home. It's going to come from outside of your home. It's going to come from the people you love the most. It's going to be the people you know for a fact you want to walk with you, but they're not going to understand it. And you're going to have to say, you know what? I am not going to be deterred by this. That should make you want to do this more. Because I was, and it's so funny because somebody said to me the other day they didn't see what I was doing wasn't working. And I was going to cancel this interview. Because I was going to say, I was like, maybe this person is right. Maybe I'm not touching anybody. Maybe nobody is listening to me. And there's going to be moments just like that when you need to step up and bet on yourself. There are going to be moments just like that when you're going to want to throw in the towel because you don't get likes, because you don't get downloads on your podcast. People not buying your books. People not listening to what you're saying. But I'm telling you, there's somebody out there listening. I get DMs all the time. When that one person is telling me that this isn't working, 3 people contact me. So bet on yourself. And bet that you can do what you have what it takes to make it work. They don't. Listen to you. Don't listen to the outside noise. Don't listen to, and again, we have a tendency to say, well, this is my husband. This is my boyfriend. This is my cousin. This is my mom. We want to listen to what these people say because these are our loved ones, but they don't know your vision. They don't know what God gave to you. And if you do believe in God, and if this is something that you want to do, I don't care what business it is. I don't care if it's paparazzi. I don't care if it's t-shirts. I don't care what it is. If you know that this is you and you know that this is your God-given vision, then bet on yourself and continue on. And that's why I'm here right now doing this interview, because I said there's no way I'm going to cancel this interview and miss the opportunity to help other women just because somebody else doesn't see it working for me. But it's not for them to understand. It's your vision, you and God alone, period.
So I'm so happy that you did not cancel the interview, simply because one, people who are experiencing depression, women who to the outer world are strong and um just always the go-to person, has everything to be grateful for. They need to hear this. They need to hear this, right? I've shared my story in regards to depression, and it's real. It's real. And the same thing. I never knew that, or oh my goodness, why would you feel like that? And it's because the weight of the world is heavy. The weight of the world is heavy. And I'm so happy that you came into the community to share your story, because there are people who need to hear it. There's someone who's looking at you and they're like, I see myself in this person. Oh my goodness. Oh my, I didn't realize that all of the things that I was doing, it's really, depression behind it. Or, what? Yes, now is the time to get help. I see someone who is on the other side, right, of where I'm at. And I know that I too can do it. So I would always say, whoever the naysayer is, so what? Always, always tell your story, because there is someone who is looking for you, literally looking for you, to know that they can make it through, to know that how they're feeling and what they're going through is okay. And
validated, period. Your feelings are validated. What you're going through is validated, period. Because like I said, just because they don't understand it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It exists, and it's going to be your loved ones. It's going to be someone that you care about the most who is not going to be your biggest cheerleader. And it's going to still be okay. It's going to be okay. They don't understand yet, but they'll come around, and it'll be okay.
so just as we, continue, just one of the things that, if you don't mind touching upon, what does healing look like, right? Because it's so easy to tell someone, make sure you go and get the help. And sometimes on the other side of that, it's like you're opening up Pandora's box. So you have to be very careful in how you get the help, and understand that you need to have that level of support, because the healing process is not for the faint at heart, right? So can you talk about the journey of healing?
It's a process. It is a process. And I think what healing to me means is the taking responsibility, but it also means admitting that things may not be the way you thought they were. And so when I started healing, I had to come to realization that, okay, this over here wasn't like I had imagined all that time when I was hiding. See, we have a tendency to hide everything. We keep everything bottled up inside. So when we start to heal, it's because we don't want anybody to know that secret. And I have low tolerance for secrets. I have low tolerance for people who will walk around like things are fine, unresolved. It's unhealed, unresolved people. You have a whole bunch of problems that you're just leaving on the back of the table. I'm just going to move on to the next thing. But what people don't realize is when you don't solve what you left under the table, it comes back in your life. It continues to repeat.
Trauma will follow you. It will follow you.
It'll follow you. And people love to say, turn the page or stop looking back or that's in the past. But have you solved that problem? But see, you don't solve the problem because, again, you haven't taken responsibility and you don't realize you have a problem. So when I started healing, I started looking at the things around me that, hey, this wasn't how I thought it was supposed to be. And so when I started healing, going back to what I said about how I would argue and wouldn't hear anybody else's, because my point of view was the be all end all, period. Well, now what the healing is, I ended up cutting off people that I no longer want to deal with. And that was my mom, my father, my sister, and my niece. I no longer deal with them. Now, my mother has a little bit of being able to come back in, but it'll never be the same because they are unhealed people. And so I get all the time, and there are a lot of people I don't deal with. And people will say, well, you know what? Especially in the Black community, that's your mom. You ain't got but one mama. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I honor her. I've honored my father. There's nothing in the Bible that says I have to continue a relationship with them. And when I started healing, I didn't like the toxic. I didn't like the toxic stuff. I didn't want it in my spirit anymore. I wanted to go to bed at night and go to sleep. But see, when I was dealing with my toxic family, it was the phone calls in the middle of the night. It was the phone calls all day. It was she even tried to pull me back in. I want to say 2 days last week, she tried to rope me back in with, well, can I talk to you for a second? There we go with the toxic stuff. You see what I'm saying? And it's not that I don't love these people, but I'm healing. My peace, my mental health is worth way more than having this relationship with my mother. Everybody doesn't have a hallmark relationship with their family. It doesn't make me a bad person because I don't talk to my mother. It doesn't make me, and I don't have no dealings with my father anymore at all because, again, he was my abuser. I was his caretaker, but then the PTSD started coming back from when I was 12. So my therapist told me it's time to get rid of him. He's done. Now, there's no going back with him. And my sister either. I have one sister. We grew up together. I have nothing for her. I love her, but I have nothing for these people because my mental health is way more important to me than it is to have toxic relationships. So once I started healing, I could hear unhealed people a mile away. So when people talk to me, I'm like, "Oh, girl, you so unhealed." I'm gonna stop it right there because you unhealed. I just walk around. Now everybody unhealed to be like, "Oh, y'all need therapy." Like I'll walk around. Like that's my new thing now. Like I'm like, you got unresolved issues. I need to get that stuff together before you talk to me. Okay? So healing looks like to me finding peace. And I'm at peace with the decisions that I make with the toxic people I cut off. I am at peace with the boundaries I set. Healing looks like to me not using bad coping skills. Healing looks like to me now, instead of going to get a drink when I'm feeling toxic and I'm feeling bad, now it looks like going to journal. Healing looks like to me, if I'm going to be a transformation coach, I had to also transform the way I ate. I had to transform my body size. And no, I'm not doing, losing the weight because I'm trying to look good for the internet. But I knew that me being at the weight I was, I couldn't breathe. I wasn't able to. I mean, my cholesterol was up. My blood pressure was up. I mean, it was bad. Here it is. I'm eating because now one addiction turns into another. So I wasn't drinking. So now instead of drinking, I started eating. So then I started blowing up. Okay. So now I channel that energy. If I'm going to be a transformation coach, not only am I transforming my mind, but I'm also transforming the way my health is. And so I eat better. And people don't realize too, the foods that we eat do have some type of balance. It changes those things in your brain. I didn't want to hear that anymore. When we Black, we like, girl, no, fried chicken, collard greens, those are the things that we grew up on, and so a lot of people are so shocked that I didn't cook for Thanksgiving or your husband didn't want turkey. We don't have to eat that. We're cool, like we don't have to eat those things, and those things don't make me who I am, so if I want to eat Mexican food on Thanksgiving, that's just me. But I changed the way I eat. I changed the way I look at food. Now food is not my just like alcohol. I don't need to reach for it every time I feel bad. So that's what healing looks like to me. And when I explain to people, when I tell people, I walk. I constantly walk. I walk my dog twice a day. I also do power walking. I also go to the gym now, because I'm not spending $10,000 to look good, but I'll spend $1,000, for a gym membership. Right. Healing looks like putting in the work, then and actually doing what you set out to do. So now sometimes when I go to bed at night, I go to bed from exhaustion because I've done things all day. I've worked out, I've done what I need to do, instead of crying myself to sleep. So that's what healing looks like to me. I am healing, and I'm still working on it. It's still a journey now, It's not something that's happening, overnight now. Like I said, I was about to get ready to not do this interview because I'm still healing. I'm still on this journey. There are things there, I have setbacks, but I now know how to cope with those things. So I don't go to the bottle. I don't go to the refrigerator. I say, you know what? Let me channel my energy. And so when people see me posting on it, I'll sit and think, and then I'll make a post. And then I'll get it out in public. And then I'll have people come back and say, that post did something for me today. That's my healing process. If I can help one person a day just from one text or something that I put out, then that heals me. That helps with my healing. So that's what healing looks like to me. And it also looks like bubble baths, taking care of your skin, all those things that we, because I, for a long time, I had stopped doing all those things. Because when you're depressed, you don't want to do anything. You're like, who am I getting pretty for? I don't care. Get pretty for you. When you start healing, you start feeling better about yourself. And you don't worry about the opinions of others. You start healing, it's all about you. And of course the Scorpio in me comes out, because we always, how Scorpios are. It's all about us anyway, So that's, that's my healing process. And I'm still going through it. And every day it's a process that I enjoy. It's hard, but I actually am enjoying the process of it. I'm glad that I don't walk around with this stupid look on my face, I'm frowning up at everybody, because I used to walk around with like hell in me all day long, waiting for somebody to say something. I'll bet you bet not say that, like you bet not. Now I walk around like, hey, how you doing? Good morning. I'm the first one, and I get a little attitude because so that's so funny, because when you're healing, you now want to rely why people don't want to give you back the same energy. Like, right. I mean, you ain't nice to me no more. Oh, okay, all right now, but you got to let that go and realize that maybe this person is not healed. Maybe this person is going through some things. So everybody's not going to be able to reciprocate, your feelings and your emotions. But I continue doing it anyway, and it heals me, period.
Oh my, this has been wonderful. We are coming up on the hour, and I cannot thank you enough for coming into the community, All Bets on Me, and just sharing your journey, sharing your expertise, being authentic, right? Because it's needed. I can guarantee you have touched women in this community. And so, Mrs. Olivia B Shepherd, please tell the members of the community where they can find you.
I am all over Facebook, Instagram. I do have a blog, and it's oliviabshepherd.org. I do have a Facebook group, Mastering Entrepreneurship and Mental Health, which is going to be changing to represent my brand, Heal, Grow, and Transform. But you can still find me over at Mastering Mental Health and Entrepreneurship to join the group. I'm going to be taking the group into another direction starting January. So look forward to that. But you can do at Olivia B Shepherd. I have a podcast, Girl, Your Journey Starts Here. It is everywhere you get your podcast. So it's Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcast. My podcast is actually there. I'm super excited because I'm going to go to my third season. So I'm super excited about that. Other than that, yeah, I'm so excited about that. People say I always say I talk too much. Now I talk, and it's my show. So, so I don't care. I can talk as long as I want to. I can cut it off if I want. If I don't, I don't. And yeah, I'm all over. I mean, I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. Just look forward to this year. You know, it's the end of the year, so I'm just maneuvering around right now, trying to do some new things, new websites, and all of that. But please look forward to the Heal, Grow, Transform Academy, where I want to be able to take women through like a 6-week boot camp of healing, growing, and transforming into who God created them to be. So look forward for that in 2022. I'm super excited about that.
Oh my, and you are doing
so much for this. I'm glad I didn't, cancel. So even though it was my sorrow, I was super excited about that. I was just like, I thank her so much for inviting me on because I've met so many women through this sorority that are, just amazing. So I'm glad I did show up today because again, it's the healing for me as well. So thank you.
No. So one, just definitely kudos to the group host and the leader of the group, All Bets on Me, LaShonda Woodford. Definitely shout out to her. And of course, it was our pleasure to have this interview. You have definitely blessed the members of this community. I am blessed in hearing your story, and I'm definitely inspired. I will connect with you and we will make sure that we put the information in the community for the women to connect with you. It has been our pleasure, and thank you, Miss Olivia B Shepherd. And if anybody has any questions, we will definitely have the contact information, or you can put it in the community, and we will post a replay for those who were unable to join us live today. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Mrs. Olivia B Shepherd.
Thank you.
Good day.